Traffic shaping gets a bad rap, but done right, it's one of the smartest tools an ISP can use.
It's not throttling, it's optimization.
And customers may not realize it's even happening to them.
I think if you're doing it correctly, it is an invisible force.
In this episode, we're breaking down how shaping actually works when it's done responsibly, how data drives those decisions, how to communicate them, and how to turn a technical tool into a customer advantage.
Because smart ISPs don't hide it. They use it strategically. On your computer screen, if something popped up and said, we're going to use 100% of your internet connection, and your experience for everything else that you want to do is going to be diminished, no one's going to click OK. So that's what you're doing in the background, is you're keeping a lane open for all the other stuff that they want to do while you're just slowing down that or delaying it altogether. How do you keep optimizing your network
without breaking the trust your brand is built on? All right. It's time for us to talk about data or data today, right? No.
It's a big day.
Which is why we're wearing our Team Data t-shirts, bandwidth merch. It's all good.
Mine's Team Data, but yeah, otherwise.
Team Data.
Data.
All right.
This
is how this is going to go.
Yeah.
Fine. So let's get into the nitty gritty. We're going to talk about traffic shaping today. And y'all are going to help carry me along in this conversation because, I feel like this is an Internet for Dummies experience for me. Y'all are talking about things that I don't really understand fully. So first question, what's the real goal of traffic shaping? Is it better performance or better margins for the ISPs?
I'd say, I'll just answer a third option. To me, it's more consistency and predictability of experience.
You know what? Will you take a step back and tell me what traffic shaping even is?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So you have your package or your service, right? You have a certain amount of, megs or whatever per up, per down. And that's like that's the speed limit of how fast the traffic can go on your particular internet connection that you're on. That, I suppose, is part of it, but that's not really what we're talking about when we say traffic shaping. It is a more nuanced application of kind of carving out lanes within the highway. So, you're prioritizing certain traffic and you're deprioritizing other traffic. And in my opinion, that really is in the intention of providing an optimized experience. So you're deprioritizing traffic that doesn't need to be as fast or as consistent. And you're making space when you're doing that for the traffic that does need to be more real-time delivery and more consistent, and where you would notice the inconsistencies. So that's why my answer of why would you do this? It's about consistency and it's about predictability of experience.
Larry?
Yeah, I agree. So I answered as better performance because I think that's what you see as the result of the traffic shaping. It's all about the quality of experience. That's a real metric that people try and track and stuff like that.
QoE.
So, QoE, right?
Yeah, you'll hear that a lot these days.
So trying to optimize that and trying to make that as good as possible is important. Will that then result in better margins? Potentially, because if you're doing things, it may make your network go farther, but still providing the customer with what they're expecting. And traffic shaping has gotten such bad press, but I really think, it is really, when done right, it is a really positive thing. And customers may not realize it's even happening to them.
I think if you're doing it correctly, it is an invisible force from the user experience 99% of the time.
But makes them a lot happier, and they just don't realize
They just don't know it.
So can you give me an example of something that would be prioritized over something that would be deprioritized?
The example used all the time is something like VoIP. If you could use telephone service
Voice over IP.
Voice over IP versus the my son just got his Xbox and he needs to download the 700 gig patch file for the game that he just bought. So he wants that 700 gig file as fast as he can. But if he's taking up your whole pipe, then you can't talk. You're like,
Gotcha.
Yeah, what did you say? So that's the example.
Can you hear me now?
Very, very often, or video. You don't want it buffering. Fortunately, I think we're pretty far past those days. I can't remember the last time my video buffered. It may go completely offline because, servers.
Oh, there was a big championship fight not too terribly long ago that like across the country people were
Okay.
buffering because they all wanted to fight.
Because they weren't prepared for
Right.
that volume of traffic. We didn't even watch it till the next day because it was too frustrating.
But I would say, kind of in the same lane as voice, it's ubiquitous these days, more and more people working from home, things like Zoom, Teams, etc. That's voice and video.
Yep.
And that's an example where, it's not buffering because it's real-time video data. You have to prioritize that traffic. And your example of the download is great. The one that came to mind for me, maybe a less obvious example, but one thing that we would have in our policies is something like OS updates. Windows would release an update, and the way that works is once it's available, if your machine's online, once it's available, it's going to grab it. So you would see that spike, and that would monopolize the airtime on the access points. It would monopolize people's traffic. And again, you need that download to complete eventually. But if given the choice on your computer screen, if something popped up and said, we're going to use 100% of your internet connection for this until this finishes, and your experience for everything else that you want to do is going to be diminished, no one's going to click okay. They're going to click please don't do that. So that's what you're doing in the background, is you're keeping a lane open for all the other stuff that they want to do while you're just slowing down that or delaying it altogether. You can also just block, like when you're setting up these traffic shaping policies, you could either just set kind of speed or proportionate access, so if it's this much of a connection, give it 20% for this, or you could actually block it altogether, and then sort of open up the floodgates for those updates outside of peak times. That's all going to come down to your policy as to what you're going to do. And I think the difference between those two is blocking things outright is really playing God, and it's more visible, it's more disruptive, and you even have, the permission to do that. But I think back to Larry's point, that is the kind of thing that people think of when they hear, terms like traffic shaping, is that it's this evil thing because it's, the ISPs playing God and doing things to their own benefit.
It's all happening behind the green curtain. And
right.
Do you presume to criticize the great odds?
So that actually leads me right into my next question, is how transparent should ISPs be with their customers about their traffic shaping policies?
100% transparent. I mean, we published them. We told people what we were doing. You're not going to get down into the hardcore details. You're not going to say, like, these are the, the class of service markings that I'm putting on these sorts of packets.
Right.
Nobody would understand that stuff, but we are going to shape this sort of traffic and, put in general terms that people can understand. You may have to put something more specific, on your website to go into details, because there are some legal implications behind doing this, or at least, they're out there. I don't think they ever really got enforced much from what I
haven't heard of it being enforced. From what I understand, the U.S. has an open internet disclosure. That so there are some guidelines and definitions around not only that you need to do it, but also the kind of information that you need to include in these policies. Like Larry was saying, it's going to be to a certain level of fidelity. But another thing that I think about when I think about traffic shaping is you understand what you're doing. You have these principles of strategy, but they are probably going to change, and they're going to be refined, and you'll turn this one up, you'll turn that one down based on what's happening on the rest of the internet. So like when the World Cup is happening, that's that example, like like the title fight or whatever you're trying to watch, where you would treat that differently. And if you wanted to try and preserve that experience, you might put in a little bit more extreme versions of your standard policies in order to try and optimize that experience. But you would have to do that strategically. If you were defining down to the letter of what's happening in your policies, then you wouldn't have the ability to really get the most out of something like this.
I'm wondering if ISPs tend to bury this in their terms and conditions, or if it's something that they kind of trot out, because this is part of telling your story too. You're being good stewards of the bandwidth that you have. Bandwidth. of the bandwidth that you have available for your customers. And I wonder if bringing more light to that topic wouldn't be a good idea for some operators.
I think it's just you don't want to hide it, because if you are doing these sorts of things, and if you're doing them for the right reasons, why should you be hiding it? If you are hiding it, you're probably not doing it for the right reasons. You're probably doing things that your customer wouldn't want. You're not improving their quality of experience. You're optimizing your network for yourself, and that shouldn't be the goal ever, I don't think.
I have another weird question. Do you optimize based on who's receiving the service? Do you optimize commercial businesses over residential businesses? Do you optimize during business hours?
Yeah.
You can do all those sorts of things.
We certainly had different policies.
Differently. Yep, we do. And even maybe at different plans, if you've got the basic 100 meg plan, you're getting optimized differently than the guy who's got the 500 meg plan.
And there are some operators out there that are usage based, right? And you get deprioritized once you've used so much in a service delivery period. Is that true?
Yes and no. I think generally that is, a more blunt speed limit of the whole highway thing. Where you could go 60 miles an hour before, and now you're going down.
Now the governor's in place, and you can only go 45.
Exactly. Yeah. Unless you pay us, and we'll let you go fast again. This is more nuanced. This is about the control of the lanes. You mentioned in the first kind of prompt question about, can this help you to kind of, I guess, prolong your infrastructure, or is this about performance, or is this about longevity, or whatever? I do think that it can help you to maybe delay significant infrastructure upgrades. I don't think it's going to mean that you don't need them at all. It is about the experience. I think if you see that you have a tower or access points or a backhaul or whatever, a segment of your network that is just really starting to get up there, you might want to ratchet up the efficacy or the aggression, I guess, of these, to be a little bit more effective, and that'll buy you time.
So the shaping can be down to an access point. It doesn't have to be your entire
Or it can
network.
be down to the subscriber if you want it to be.
Yep. Okay.
You can really shape.
This really is behind the green curtain stuff.
It really can go that far.
Absolutely.
So are the shaping decisions based on data, not data, data, or are they just habit and legacy policy? I mean, do you make tweaks once you have your policies in place based on the data that's coming in?
The answer to that is yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want effective traffic shaping, you can't just set it and forget. This isn't a one-time setup deal. This is, not like I set up my mail server and now it's working.
And I'm assuming that it would change as you light up more customers on different sectors in your network as well. That if you've got 10 people on an access point, it's a different situation than if you've got 50 people on an access point.
I think you've got your defaults, and then you have the option to kind of get into more aggressive or just different strategies. Nowadays, it seems every time we talk about anything, the letters AI come into it. In my experience, doing this 10 years ago, the very sophisticated equipment, and we did it down to the deep packet inspection level, the DPI level. You can do traffic shaping without doing DPI necessarily. You can you could classify these lanes based on the destination of the traffic and just sort of reverse engineering that.
I'm going to have to ask you to time out and tell me a little bit more about the definition of deep packet inspection.
Okay, for sure. So
thank you.
Your internet is, I don't know if I want to just continue with this highway analogy because it's probably going to fall apart really quickly, but let's watch that happen in real time. Yeah. So you have your data, and your data is going along in the lanes, right? And it's observing those speed limits, and it's in a little package each, and those are your packets. I'm sure, you've heard that. So deep packet inspection is understanding what is inside that packet of data and where it is going. It's just understanding the nature of that. So if you're streaming a video, you're going to have millions of packets, and there's an understanding of what they are and where they're going. And that's how you know that is a video packet. And once you understand what that packet is, you know which lane it belongs in. And that's essentially how this all works.
So like the voice packet versus the video packet versus the patch packet.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
And at its, kind of lowest level, I think you will as an ISP, because otherwise you literally aren't delivering a transport service. You're going to understand where that packet came from and where it is going. You have to understand that's part and parcel of how this all works. So like if it's very clear that it's like headed to your customer from a Netflix server, then you could classify that as streaming video traffic and you'd put that in the streaming video lane. So deep packet inspection really is, what it says on the tin. You're having a deeper understanding of what's inside those packets based on a lot more kind of sophisticated information that is available. Generally, that is something that is understood from the vendor. So this is determined. It's equipment that kind of is inline in your network. All the packets pass through it, and they are classified and they are marked. And then from there, once everything's classified, you're dynamically putting them into their lanes. So that's DPI in a nutshell.
I have another dumb question. Are there a set number of lanes?
No.
Okay.
No, it's all what your imagination and your I guess your gear can handle.
So sometimes the highway is wider and sometimes it's more narrow depending on.
Yep. And more may not be better. It really depends on what your objectives are.
Okay.
It's going to be more onerous to maintain a super sophisticated, shaping policy or shaping implementation. Then it has to tie back to your policy as well. So it's going to be kind of more work on both ends if you do have something more complex.
Larry, do you have anything to add about deep packet inspection?
Well, I mean, it is what Rick said. So, I mean, at the traffic shaping, the easy level, you're looking, you can see this traffic's coming from Netflix, and you know that Netflix is going to be sending streaming data. Right. Sorry.
It says right there in your shirt.
It says that in my shirt, yes.
Please put in the comments team data or team data.
We'll try and put a poll up. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure we're going to win.
Okay.
Either way, but with the deep packet inspection, you don't have to know it's coming from Netflix because it looks like video data. So it can be coming from somebody else who decide to, come up and be a Netflix competitor, but your policies are still going to want to apply to that information. So taking it a step further, actually, I think simplifies your policies because you're not saying,
That's
okay,
so true.
when I get something from Netflix, it's streaming, I'm going to do this. When I get something from Hulu, it's streaming, I'm going to do this.
Streaming video policy.
Here's my streaming video policy. Use your smarts. And these boxes really are pretty smart. These are high-end boxes. These are not, your router at home isn't going to do deep packet inspection for you.
But it can do traffic shaping. And that was one thing I was going to mention earlier that's interesting is, again, I think there is this perception out there that's like the ISP is doing this and it's bad. But there's features in your home routers where you can set these policies. And again, it is very much to your advantage. And frankly, I think people should be doing this, especially if you do have like a gamer in the house and you got these big Steam updates and downloads. Set that policy for yourself. Maybe your ISP isn't doing that and you want to make sure that your video calls are going to work. These features exist and you can turn them on. I mean, they're going to be less effective and less sophisticated than what's happening obviously on the transport ISP level, but you can do this for yourself and there are very clear advantages.
How would you do it for yourself? If I want to go home and turn on, does it just depend on the equipment that I'm using?
It's going to be very dependent on the router, but
okay.
I apologize, son. I did do that to you, and
It's like,
the truth comes out.
We had to watch video upstairs while you were downstairs, ruining that for us.
It was not the ISP. It was Dad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I love it.
that is the ISP.
That is. Dad was the ISP. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you pay the bill. You set the policies for the traffic shaping. I like it.
Smart networks require smart decisions. Sonar gives you the tools to prioritize performance without sacrificing customer trust. See how it works at sonar.software.
All right, gentlemen, it's time for my favorite segment, Love It or Hate It. I think I'm going to sit out for voting purposes this time. I'm going to leave my paddle right here. I'm going to let you two hash this one out. Let's see if there's any competition, any conflict here. But let's start with transparency around traffic shaping only creates more problems. Love it or hate it?
Hate it.
Yeah, I hate that too.
Tell me more.
it doesn't create more problems. I mean, transparency, you have to be transparent in this because we've all talked so many episodes how we're trying to build our customer trust. And if you aren't transparent around this and it comes out, I guarantee you've just lost trust from your entire customer base that hears about this.
Sure.
So you have to do that.
Do you have messaging that your staff can share with customers that call in and they're like, hey, do y'all do this traffic shaping stuff?
Okay, well, like customers don't, because customers don't understand. They only understand if they hear about it, like from some negative news article or something like that. This isn't something normally customers, they don't care. They could care less if you're traffic shaping as long as their service is working and it's working well. So I think.
But if you're doing it, you should have a policy that's public anyway.
Oh, right. Yeah. You're telling them you're doing it. I just don't think they're calling to ask about, are you doing it?
Yeah.
But it's an accountability thing, So I think, the traffic shaping and being transparent about it's a good thing.
Okay. Fair enough.
I interpreted this question a little bit differently. I kind of looked at it from a higher level, and it's like, does it create more problems, than it solves? So to me, it's like, well, do you then opt to not do it versus do it? And that's why I think I hate it. Like, yes, you will have to navigate some of those conversations, and like that, all things equal, you'd rather not have to do that. You'd rather be doing something else with your time. Hopefully, it doesn't happen too often, but it is, yes, adding something, but is that problem of having to talk to a customer every now and again and educate them or point them towards your publicly available policy going to be more problematic than optimizing the traffic on your network and sweetening that experience for all of your customers? Obviously not. So yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. This is definitely one of those things that again, like it's kind of a through line with all of our topics. Day one you've started an ISP, you're probably not doing traffic shaping. You certainly aren't doing DPI, very likely. So you grow into this kind of thing. And what's interesting about that, at least from my experience, is growing into it, you have a before and an after, and it is a big investment, both with time and money, to roll out something like this. So you're really hoping that ROI is visible. And it is it is like, wow, like how did we live without this kind of thing?
Gotcha.
Yeah. That was our experience as well. It was like, should have done this 5 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, question number 2. Unlimited plans are almost always misleading. Unlimited plans. Oh, y'all
Love it.
lining up.
We're just
got some alignment here.
We're just together today.
You both love it.
Yeah.
Let's start with Larry again on this.
All right. They're unlimited till they're not. I mean, we all sign up for the unlimited data plans for our phones.
Data.
Right. The unlimited data plans. And then, you read the fine print, except when things are busy and it's Wednesday and we don't feel like giving you unlimited data. See, data.
Data.
Then
You switched.
you just flip flop. That's like me on
That's
this
like
game. I got you to change your tone. So I mean, there are a lot of places that advertise unlimited. I think the better thing would be they should be advertising unmetered, but unmetered doesn't sound really awesome.
Unmetered does not sound sexy at all.
Don't buy into the unmetered plan. They're like, huh? So like I don't get parking tickets or what?
Yeah.
Right.
I love it in the sense that I agree with the statement, and I do frankly just blame the tier ones for this one. This is something where it's reputational, and frankly, I think a lot of consumers, there's a skepticism when they hear words like unlimited, and there's a reason for that. And I think the problem is, even if they do read the fine print, a lot of them aren't savvy enough to really understand what the practical impact of those limits are going to be until the day that it impacts them. And they're like, oh, that's where the gravy train ends. Right. So,
well, sometimes you take us off course. I'm going to take us off course just a little bit. Do you think that there's customers that are like, I need 1 gig service, and they don't ever come close to using 100%. A gig of service?
And there's different types of, buyers out there, and you kind of notice this as you're running your business. There's a certain persona out there that has to have the best things. I mean, not to over overgeneralize, but you can tell when you're doing the install who it's going to be. They're in a certain type of neighborhood. They've got, a certain type of car in the driveway, and it's just the way they live their life, and good for them, quite frankly. But they have to have the best things. That's part of the way they live their life, and it's not even an option for them. And you can see it when you're looking at your traffic histories that they don't ever come close to even hitting, the 50th percentile of your, a gig symmetrical service. But they've got to have it. And you know what? I mean, obviously, you gladly take your money, right?
No.
Yeah, I can actually think of a specific customer
Right.
that, we told him what our highest plan was. He's like, well, can't you do something more? I'm willing to pay more. Yeah, and we're like, okay, we'll put in a dedicated point-to-point link to your house, and he paid us, 3 times what the highest package that we had was.
Yep.
And used 40,
Less than what your highest package was.
40 mega a
love
month of data. Yeah, I was like, he used like nothing, but had to have this. Absolutely had to have the highest plan. So right,
Yep.
So
to our analogy, he's on the private jet. He doesn't want to be on the highway with the peasants. He
Right.
needs his own dedicated
Yeah.
airspace.
And he definitely has his own traffic shaping policy, which was nothing. Just do whatever you can push across that. And
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's funny.
Interesting. All right. We're down to question 3. Deep packet inspection is a necessary evil for modern network management.
well,
It's a necessary evil for DPI.
I guess I hate that.
Oh. I'll pick up my paddle and y'all can,
Yes.
who's going to sway me? Rick, I'm going to let you go first this time.
I feel like I'm going to disappoint because to me, it's again down to words. I'm stuck on the word evil. It's not evil, and I can't agree with that statement as such. Like, I get that maybe it would be better if we didn't have to do it, but I'll give it a practical example. One of the things that we were pretty useless with helping with, and luckily it didn't happen too many times, but frankly, this did factor into our decision to finally pull the trigger and invest in adding DPI to our network, is when you get contacted by law enforcement. If somebody on your network doing something
Nefarious?
yeah, absolutely. Something very unsavory. And you, of course, want to help with that. At least in, the jurisdiction that we were operating, there was no requirement for you to be able to necessarily point that traffic back to an individual. So it's not like we were in hot water as an ISP for not being able to bring them to that person's home, essentially. But you feel badly that you can't help with that sort of thing. You've got someone in the community that's doing something that is illegal and bad, kind of morally, objectively, legally. And of course, you want to do whatever you can to help your community. Once DPI is in place, you have a much better time. You understand the nuance and the specificity of your traffic. Now, having said that, we were able to help moving forward. Again, you hope that there's not too many of these incidences, but we had a handful of them, and we had some before introducing DPI and after introducing DPI. And of course, you still have obligations to your users, so it's not like a uniformed officer just comes into the office and give me access to your information. That you need to have certain legal presentations, and everyone is playing their role. But it felt good for the soul to be able to actually provide that information and to bring justice for these terrible situations. So what I just described evil? I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
I rest my case.
You rest your case, and that was your hate it.
but you had to have pretty accurate IP management ahead of time. So, because even before we put in the DPI and traffic shaping, when we got those warrants to provide that sort of information, what customer had this IP at this time, we could do that.
Oh, we were natting the crap out of things because we didn't have a lot of IP space.
Oh,
There's a lot
all
of
right.
shared
Yeah, we
networks.
didn't add anything, so we had a good fair amount of IP space. So it was.
This is a timing thing. You had access to IP4 space.
All right. Okay. All right. So
Larry, convince me that DPI is a necessary evil for modern network management.
yeah, see, we just are playing the word game because I just omitted the word evil and then answered it how I wanted. So I said DPI is necessary for modern network management. And that's why I went with love it. So evil would be like, how can you call it evil? It'd be like, calling your mechanics OBD monitor, evil. You need it to be able to look into your network. You need it to be able to,
Right.
diagnose things.
So you had your paddle facing the wrong way.
So no, I love it because it's necessary for modern network management. I don't think
semantics.
it's
I have to
evil.
go with Rick. I'm sorry, Larry.
No.
He wins because of the wording.
Semantics. He played on that as well.
I used all the words in the question. That's why she flipped.
Thanks for playing
I
along.
used all the words. I just said this
one
one
of
didn't
them.
matter.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate the conversation. Want more from the Bandwidth crew? Follow us on LinkedIn or Instagram for behind the scenes, hot takes, and episode drops. Well, we are coming to the end of our season, and we're going to take the next 7 minutes to have our final conversation about what if. What if a local reporter publishes a story about your ISP throttling customers during streaming hours?
Oh, that's fun.
How do you tackle that? Because I think this happens. This happens all across the U.S. and Canada and around the world. What if the nosy reporter comes in and is like, "Oh my God, can you believe ABC is doing this? ABC Internet or ABC Fiber, whoever."
I don't think you can hide from it genuinely if it was a local reporter. And I mean, we had relationships with the local press. I would be reaching out directly and I would be inviting them to come down to our offices. I would not want to hide from this. I wouldn't want to leave any space for people to draw their own conclusions or have that be the end of the story. So I would really be trying to encourage essentially a follow-up story, and I would bring them into the office and just be an open book, allow them to ask any questions that they had, maybe address anything that was, strictly not factual from the article. Obviously, it's totally hypothetical, so I don't know if it was accurate or not. But show them the traffic shaping policy as much as you can, kind of demonstrate the fact that what we're doing in practice matches the policy that we have published, sort of explain that what we're doing is, encouraged by the regulations. And then back to my previous example, we definitely had some graphs and metrics of the before and the after where we could demonstrate, seeing things completely maxed out and the experience that would deliver versus what it looked like after. So, I mean, this is a call for education. And I think, genuinely any sort of situation where your business is being put in the public eye in that way, you cannot shy away. That's part of your obligation is to engage.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, the reporter wants to be sensational. That's, what they're trying to do. They need to evoke that kind of, I got to read this
Community
article.
response.
Right. Right. But you have to react not defensively. You have to, what Rick said is the perfect way of going about this. You already have transparent policies, right? So you can point those to the policies that are on your website stating that you're doing this. You're not trying to hide it. If you call them into the office, you can, we already talked, you can set this on a customer by customer basis. You could really demonstrate the before and the after so that they could see the positive effect on it. Start that massive download and then, start streaming a video and watching and go, and then show them, now I turn this on. Look, my download still happened. Your video still happened. But your video, you got to watch it and you got to listen to it.
It's the quality of the experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I think you need to take it a step further. I do think, depending on how well this local paper is being read by your customers, you have to respond to it in a way that to your customers, but in a positive way. Get the right story that, yes, they're right. We are doing this, but here's why, and here's the benefits, and all the positives behind it. Would
you engage your social media channels to help combat this?
Right. These are the sorts of things that gave traffic shaping the bad rap that it, because people were reporting like this,
and they want it to be clickbait when it's really a non-story.
Right.
It's fear-based, sensationalism, and it's easy to do that when people don't understand the technology behind it. So, it has all the ingredients for this sort of, piece to be published, and then they can get all their clicks and all their ad revenue, and
Absolutely.
Any other way that you would disseminate information to your end users post publication of the story?
Yeah, you might do your own blog post, exactly with this same topic, and get out there. If necessary, maybe email them, that we know this has happened and we want to make sure you understand.
We made the news.
Yeah, right. Look,
We made the news, and here's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And just emphasize, this is our quality. We're committed to quality and making your internet a better experience, and this is why.
Nothing to hide.
They're right. We don't.
We started at the top of the show talking about transparency, and I think this just brings everything full circle.
Yep.
Right.
Transparency matters when you're sharing information about traffic shaping and DPI practices. That's a word. Ooh, thanks for getting back into my head there, Rick. I know you live there rent-free most of the year, but
That's right.
Excellent. Okay, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon with more episodes that keep you plugged into the broadband world. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next.
Remember, when you connect communities, you unlock what's possible. Until next time.